Dear colleagues, good morning. Greetings from Strasbourg. My name is Guillaume, and now we will talk about adjunctive host modulating agents. So, why use them as an adjunctive treatment to non-surgical instrumentation? Host modulating agents aim to improve the outcomes of non-surgical treatment by modifying the host response in three different ways. By controlling the inflammatory immune crosstalk. This can be targeted by local statins, probiotics, doxycycline, bisphosphonate, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, omega-3 and metformin, or by modifying the bacterial ecology to promote the homeostasis. That would be the role of probiotics, and we have also emerging evidence with local statins, or by promoting the healing response with the potential use of local statins, probiotics, doxycycline, bisphosphonates, and metformin. For this chapter of the guidelines, the supporting literatures come from a systematic review and meta-analysis of Donos and colleagues in 2019. So let's start with local statins. The systematic review included 12 placebo-controlled RCTs from the same research group, who investigate the effect of statin gel as adjunct to subgingival instrumentation. And we can see that the meta-analysis was conducted on 9 RCTs, and on the table we see we have the results for 6 and 9 months. From the study included, they used different statin gel formulation. We have atorvastatin, simvastatin, and rosuvastatin. The stars marked the studies with high risk of bias. The primary outcome is PPD reduction over placebo, and we can see that at 6 and 9 months, the magnitude of reduction is around 2 millimeters. For the clinical relevance, we can see that at 6 and 9 months, we have a wide heterogeneity among the studies and a large prediction interval, and also that the percentage of pocket closure is not reported. For the risk of bias, all studies are published by the same research group. Studies using single and multiple sites per patient were combined also, and 3 out of 12 studies presented with a high risk of bias in at least one domain. Besides the fact that all statin gel formulations are currently off-label, the fact that all the data came from the same research group makes the generability of the result to need to be confirmed in future studies. So there is strong consensus to do not recommend the adjunctive use of local statins. For probiotics, the systematic review include 5 placebo-controlled RCTs, and the meta-analysis was also conducted on 5 RCTs, and the study included investigate the use of different strains. We have Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, and the combination of Streptococcus uralis, Uberis, and Rattus. So the mean estimate difference in PPD reduction is 0.38 millimeter, and we can see that it's of limited clinical evidence, and also that the result is not statistically significant. Furthermore, we have a considerable heterogeneity and a large prediction interval. So no conclusion can be drawn on the effectiveness of probiotics as adjunct to subgingival instrumentation. Regarding the risk of bias, all studies had an overall low risk of bias. And for ethical and legal consideration, we have a broad range of formulation, and all appear to be safe and not associated with adverse outcomes. But for the applicability, all the studies were conducted in 2 countries, and no conclusion cannot yet be drawn on the effectiveness of probiotics. And we also don't know which bacterial strain or combination, and also which time and duration of prescription should be used. So there is a consensus to do not suggest the adjunctive use of probiotics. Let's see the doxycycline. So we talk about a sub-antimicrobial dose of doxycycline. That means the dose should not exceed 40 milligrams per day in 1 or 2 intakes. So the systematic review included the 8 placebo-controlled RCTs who assess the adjunctive effect of SDD. The meta-analysis was performed in 5 RCTs, and the primary outcome is additional PPD reduction over placebo. The results are given at 6 and 9 months and are stratified from moderate pockets and deep pockets. Here we can see that the heterogeneity is very low, but we have a small added benefit even in deep sites, and we have to keep in mind that such a result may be achieved by retreatment or local drug delivery systems. And also, again, percentage of pocket closure is not reported. For the risk of bias, one study was at high risk of bias, and the remaining studies presented some concern in certain domains. All the SDD formulation appears to be safe and were not associated with adverse outcomes by the times of the studies. However, this knows that doxycycline may lead to increased liver enzyme levels. And also, as we said, sustainability of the benefits or adverse events beyond the study period are currently unknown. Furthermore, the SDD formulation is not approved or available in European countries. And for applicability, we have seen that SDD is mainly effective in deep sites, even if the clinical relevance and or significance of this result is very small, given that retreatment with non-surgical route debridement might yield additional PPD reduction. And also, we can achieve those results with local drug delivery systems. So there is a consensus to do not suggest the adjunct of subantimicrobial dose of doxycycline. For bisphosphonates, this is a group of drugs who bind to calcium and who act on the remodeling bone process by targeting the osteoclast and the osteoblast also. The systematic review include here 7 placebo-controlled RCTs, all from the same research group, and they assess the adjunctive effect of local delivery of 1% alendronate gel and 0.5 zoledronate gel. The meta-analysis was performed in 5 RCTs using a single or multiple site per patient, and the primary outcome was additional PPD reduction over placebo at 6 months. The PPD reduction is about 2.15 millimeters, and we have a low level of heterogeneity between the studies. For the systemic use of bisphosphonate, only 2 studies were included, and they were poorly comparable in terms of the study population, smoking status, and periodontitis. So no meta-analysis was performed. But here we have an unclear clinical relevance, given that the study combined the results for smokers and non-smokers, and also for the results of a single or multiple site per patient. And again, percentage of pocket closure is not reported. For the risk of bias, here 2 out of the 9 studies were at high risk of bias. 7 presented some concern in at least one domain. 1 study was underpowered, and all studies were published by the same research group. We have also to keep in mind that the use of bisphosphonate is associated with several adverse outcomes, especially with the systemic administration. So there is a consensus that systemic administration of bisphosphonate should not be recommended in clinical management of periodontal bone loss. But we don't know if we have the same risk at the same magnitude for local administration of bisphosphonate. And also, all the local formulation of bisphosphonate are currently off-label. So there is strong consensus to do not recommend the adjunctive use of local bisphosphonates. Let's see now the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So the supporting literature included 2 placebo-controlled RCTs on local application of 1% flurbiprofen to space twice per day for 12 months, and or irrigation with 200 milliliter of 0.3% of acetyl salicylic acid for 6 months. For the systemic use, we have also 2 studies, one on celecoxib and one on diclofenac. So it was not possible to undertake a meta-analysis of local or systemic non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs administration as adjunct to subgingival instrumentation, because the studies were heterogeneous, not comparable in terms of medication employed and modality of administration. So for the clinical relevance, we can say that the local non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs did not enhance the clinical outcomes of subgingival instrumentation, and it is the same with systemic non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, who exhibit limited clinical benefits. Regarding here the risk of bias, 2 out of 4 studies were at high risk of bias, and study did not either provide information on sample size calculation or were underpowered. For ethical and legal consideration, we have here to keep in mind that long-term use of systemic non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are associated with well-known unwanted side effects. And it raises a concern over their use as adjunctive use to subgingival instrumentation, given that here we have a period of intakes up to 12 months. So for applicability, there is a strong consensus to do not recommend the adjunctive use of these drugs. Let's see now the polyunsaturated fatty acid omega-3. So those are the docosahexaenoic acid and the pentahexaenoic acid. So here we have in the systematic review 3 placebo-controlled RCTs, one on with a combination of EPA and DHA, and one with omega-3, which is not specified, associated with aspirin, and one with 1 milligram of omega-3 capsule, and the period of intakes is up to 6 months. So here no meta-analysis could be performed due to the low number of available studies, and also because of their heterogeneity. So since the 3 RCTs use different dose and preparation of omega-3, and one out of the 3 combine also the use of aspirin, it was not possible to draw any clinical meaningful conclusion from the presented data. So here regarding the risk of bias, 1 study was at high risk of bias, and 1 study reported industry support. 1 was supported by a university, and 1 did not disclose the funding source. For the we have no adverse effect associated with the use of omega-3, and regarding the applicability, there is insufficient data to support or refute the use of polyunsaturated fatty acid, either alone or in combination. So there is a strong consensus to do not recommend the adjunctive use of omega-3. Let's see now the metformin. So this is a drug primarily used to control diabetes. The systematic review included 6 placebo-controlled RCTs from the same research group that investigates the local delivery of 1% metformin gel as adjunct to subgingival instrumentation. The meta-analysis was performed on the 6 studies, and the primary outcomes is PPD reduction over placebo. Here the magnitude of the benefits is around 2 millimeters, and we can see that we have a low level of heterogeneity between the studies. But for clinical relevance, all studies, even if all studies reported benefits in terms of PPD reduction, we can see that the meta-analysis included study using single and multiple site per patient. All studies were also published by the same research group, and potential confounders needs to be taken into consideration. For example, smoking status or medical history. So regarding the risk of bias, all studies were published by the same research group again. 4 out of 6 studies presented some concern of risk of bias, and the level of involvement of the industry in the analysis and interpretation of the results is unclear. We have to mention that the metformin formulation included in the systematic review is off-label and was not associated with adverse outcomes. And regarding the applicability, as we said, all the data were published by the same research group, so the generalizability of the result need to be confirmed in future studies. So here we have a strong consensus to do not recommend the adjunctive use of metformin gel. So to summarize, from all the potential host modulators presented in the systematic review, none can be suggested or recommended as adjunct to subgingival debridement. With that, I thank you for your kind attention.